Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining me once again on the Roaming Prepper channel. This is your host, Pete, and I hope everyone is having a wonderful day and you had a good weekend. Now, for those of you who are new to the channel, thank you and welcome. We appreciate everybody coming in to join us. The format of the situation report, for those of you who are new, is pretty straightforward. I'm going to go through the regions of the Earth in alphabetical order. Then in each region, any story of interest will be going by the country, also alphabetical order. It's just the simplest way to do it. This is a compilation of corporate, state, and other media outlets that I get my hands on these compilations through my work, and I'm just summarizing and sharing that which I can to you. And I will try to give you the references as we go through the movie, through these stories. So let's begin with Africa. Africa, Kenya. Teenagers found with 5,000 ants in Kenya given fine or 1-year jail sentence from ABC News. 2 Belgian teenagers found with 5,000 ants were given a choice of paying a fine of $7,700 or serving 12 months in prison. The minimum penalty for the offense for violating wildlife conservation laws. What the hell were they doing with 5,000 ants? Have you seen the ants in Africa? They will bite the crap out of you. Why would you do that? Anyway, moving on. The only other story of interest out here is from Reuters in Mali. Mali suspends political activities ahead of planned protest. Mali has suspended political activities across the country ahead of a planned protest against the military junta that has ruled since coups in 2020 and 2021. So you remember the Rona years were very unstable for a lot of countries, especially the smaller ones, like Mali. So people are still quite upset about what's going on. I will tell you that if you are planning a trip to Africa, make sure you check one with your doctor to see if you do need shots. I know a lot of us are suspicious of vaccinations, but I promise you typhus or malaria or dengue fever will absolutely screw up your vacation. And the shots are actually effective. They've been around for about 40 years. But make sure you plan your trips if you're going to these places in the world. Now, the next section we're going to go to will be East Asia and the Pacific, and we only have a couple of stories in the Asia Pacific area. The first of which, hold on a second here. Oh, here we go. So the first of which would be North Korea and South Korea. South Korea says North Korea has fired several missiles toward its eastern waters. This is from AP News. North Korea on Thursday fired various types of short-range ballistic missiles into its eastern sea, South Korea's military said, adding to a run in military displays that raised animosities in the region. As you also know, South Korea has recently impeached its president for declaring martial law. The man swore up and down that communists were trying to take over. However, apparently the courts and the people did not agree. So in any case, another story from South Korea. South Korea presidential hopefuls square off for a conservative candidacy. South Korean presidential hopefuls Kim Moo-soo and former Prime Minister Han Duck-soo clashed on Thursday during a meeting to discuss merging their campaigns in order to field a single conservative candidate to contest the upcoming election. This is really something to keep an eye on because South Korea is very important. We have a lot of troops, a lot of assets in that country, so it's very important that it remains stable and also remain friendly. One of those things that we touch on in, actually, if you read the book, from the books from, let's see, who was it? James Wesley Rawls, he touches on nations coming apart and troops being caught in those nations. So definitely something to keep an eye on. No news from Taiwan or China this week, although we all know that China is struggling to figure out how to deal with the tariffs. There are also unofficial reports, which I've mentioned before, of people protesting and in some cases fighting with police because of lack of food, not being paid, and several other issues. So keep an eye on China as well. When countries are under stress like that financially, that is kind of when they tend to make very, very bad decisions. And it's important that all of us understand what in our supply chain comes from those parts of the world so that we can react accordingly in the event something is indeed disrupted. So, moving on. Hold on just a second here. There we go. Europe. So let's move on to the European continent here. And we will, bear with me just a second here. I've had a bit of a technical glitch. There we go. Europe. Europe has a bunch. Okay, anti-Semitic incidents surge across Europe and the world, according to the Anti-Defamation League from Euronews. Violent anti-Semitic incidents have risen across 7 countries with the largest Jewish communities outside of Israel, according to the ADL reported Wednesday. In Greece, Greek police arrest far-right group accused of robberies and assault, according to Reuters. Greek police said on Thursday they had dismantled a far-right criminal group linked to robberies, assaults, and violence with a racist motive in the northern city of Thessaloniki. I used to be able to say that. Thessaloniki. That's a mouthful. Anyway, moving on. The Netherlands. Chinese cyber menace exceeds threat from Russia. Dutch spy chief warns. This is from Politico. In its annual report released late last month, MIVD, which is the intelligence group in the Netherlands, highlighted the deepening geopolitical, economic, and military ties between Russia and China, and the growing risks they pose for Europe. Now, you all have heard that the Newark airport went offline a couple of weeks ago. Well, apparently this weekend it happened again. Now, they are claiming that it was outdated equipment and insufficient gear or whatever, and that may rightly be so, but there has been a slew of issues where air traffic control is dropped offline, and this is something that we should all be paying attention to and should be concerning to every one of us as we go forward. So, last one. Russia, Victory Day on Red Square. 5 things to watch in this year's Kremlin War anniversary. It is reported by RFE. I have no idea who that is. For Kremlin watchers, May 9th is a tea leaf event providing clues for shifts in thinking for Putin, now in his 26 years as the country's leader. Wow, he's been in power for 26 freaking years. That's a dictator. He's not a president anymore. And then Russia and Venezuela, according to Reuters. Putin and Venezuela's Maduro signed a strategic partnership agreement in Moscow. So that's always fun. Moving on to the Middle East. Israel and Lebanon. Lebanon state media says a series of Israeli strikes hit the south. This is according to Arab News. Lebanese official media said Israel conducted airstrikes on the south on Thursday, the latest in a string of raids despite a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. To be honest, I think at this point Israel's just going to whack whoever they think they need to whack on the head. Again, if you are planning any kind of travel, I have friends who are actually Syrian, who are U.S. citizens, have family in Syria. They were flying into Lebanon to avoid all the nastiness. Now Hezbollah is in it, so they basically can't go back home. Not sure how they're doing it. I think they're flying into Dubai, and then from Dubai they're flying into part of Lebanon, and then taking a truck 6 hours to get to Damascus. So that's tough for folks living in that part of the world. A lot of instability, and it does affect the Suez Canal and our oil supply. Things to watch out for sure. Let me see what else we got. Oh, Jordan, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia. Massive dust storm hit Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Jordan, triggering travel chaos and flash floods. This is Gulf News. Powerful dust storm has blanketed large parts of Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Jordan, triggering travel disruptions, flash floods, and emergency evacuations. And my friends, this is why you try to prep as best as you can for travel. You want to keep certain things with you. Moving on to Central Asia, India and Pakistan. India and Pakistan trade fire and accusations after an Indian missile strike from the AP News. Now, this was late last week, and I'll elaborate here in a minute. India fired attack drones into Pakistan on Thursday, wounding 4 soldiers, the Pakistani military said. India, meantime, accused its neighbor of attempting its own attack as tensions soared between the nuclear-armed rivals. So it appears that since this article came out, this was from AP News, since this article came out, the two nations have started talking again. One of the reports I heard from CNN, and I'll have you guys go look for it yourself, they mentioned that how was it worded? Essentially, the White House and the Pentagon and the agencies got intel that was, quote, extremely distressing and disturbing, unquote, to the President, the Vice President, and Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. And as such, they immediately got on the phone. Vice President Vance spoke to President Modi in India. Rubio was calling the Pakistanis, and they were able to get a framework to where negotiators will meet, and they've agreed to a ceasefire until the negotiators can meet with one another. I don't know what it was, what tidbit of intelligence we picked up or the Europeans picked up and shared with us that concerned them, to the point where not 48 hours after President Trump says, look, this isn't our business, we're not going to intervene, we'll let them figure it out, they decided to jump in. Possibly someone was planning to use a nuke. They mobilized a tactical nuke. We don't know. Whatever it is, they got a ceasefire, so hopefully it holds up. Moving to the Western Hemisphere, my friends. So, let's see what we got here. So, Colombia. Colombia's top court orders the arrest of former legislature presidents. This is according to Reuters. Colombia's Supreme Court on Wednesday issued arrest orders for Ivan Name, the former president of the country's Senate, and Andrés Calle, the former president of the House of Representatives, over corruption allegations. Colombia has been fighting corruption for a long time. They're somewhat much more stable now than they were before, but they still have a fair share of issues. And that was from Reuters. Moving on, Guatemala. This article is from the newspaper called El Faro, F-A-R-O. Expanding her enemy list, Guatemalan AG accuses indigenous leaders of terrorism. To Maya Kichi, K''I''C''E', Maya Kichi, I think that's how the pronunciation, pro-democracy leaders who were key in fending off an electoral coup in 2023 and 2024 have now been arrested and accused of terrorism, including a member of President Bernardo Arevallo's cabinet. There is a lot of house cleaning going on in El Salvador and Guatemala and Venezuela. Whether it actually takes root in a lot of cases, many people are saying, well, some of the government is involved and complicit with the cartels and the drug dealing. One could argue our government has people who are complicit. Either way, interesting that they're going after each other like this. And again, that article was from El Faro. Haiti. Gangs are inches from ruling all of Haiti, according to The Economist. We are approaching a point of no return, Maria Isabel Salvador, the UN's top official in Haiti, told its Security Council. Haiti has absolutely and utterly collapsed. The last foreign aid that went into Haiti was UN troops that were trying to peacekeep before the government collapsed, and the UN troops from Malaysia did not practice sanitation properly and contaminated drinking water and created a cholera epidemic in the country. And then it got hit by a hurricane. It's just, if any country is an example of a complete collapse, Haiti is it right now. And there are things we can learn from that. And that's from The Economist. Moving on, Mexico. Cocaine seizures reach 17-month high at border. This is from Border Report. Cocaine seizures reached a 17-month high in March, the latest month for which CBP has released detailed statistics. More than 3,400 pounds of the powerful stimulant were seized by OFO on the southwest border in March, second only to the 3,500 pounds of, I guess it was fentanyl. It kind of blurred out on the article. In any case, this is from Border Report, and yes, they are shutting down a lot. We're stopping a lot, but there's still a lot getting through. Sadly, folks, so long as 15 or 20% of the country continues to buy this kind of stuff and use it, there's really not much you can do than maintain order. Really, that's all we can do. If you want a good example of that, watch the movie Sicario and listen carefully to Josh Brolin. His character is quite key. Moving on, last one for Western Hemisphere, Russia and Venezuela, and I think I read this a little while ago. Putin and Venezuela's Maduro signed a strategic partnership. Yes, so as far as financial news, ladies and gentlemen, we're kind of seeing some prices come down. Oil actually dipped under the sub 70 mark. It was actually in the low 60s for a while, has not hit 50s. A lot of oil and gas producers are trying to position themselves accordingly. There is good news. The financial jobs report, the last one, seemed to have a positive spin. It sounded like, there were jobs being created. You had more people entering the workforce. It'll be a long time before we truly see what the effects of the tariffs are. However, England, apparently Japan, and a few others have already either negotiated or are in the final stages of negotiating upgraded and updated trade agreements. So this could be good for sure. We'll need to pay attention to it. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, eat tomorrow on today's pricing. If the prices are going to go up, you want to get it while it's cheap. If you have to buy it while it's expensive, which you may be forced to do, make sure you store it accordingly so that you don't waste that money later on. The worst thing you do is buy chicken at an inflated price and then you don't store it right and it spoils and you lose it. As always, try to keep some cash. We've had a lot of issues both with hacking and just equipment failures as far as finance, so it's important to have cash available. And again, pay down debt as much as you can. Not everyone's in a different position, I get it. Minimize your exposure, and most importantly, don't panic. We as YouTubers and YouTube family, we don't control any of this, but what we can do is ensure that we have the right mentality and we position ourselves for the most, the most options to pivot. Now, before we continue on, let's talk a little bit about travel tips. If you're in an airport, and again, going back to the Newark shutdown, if you can carry everything on you, it's better. If you have to check it in, not a bad thing. I throw an air tag in my checked luggage so I know where it is. You can bring small drink items on the plane. Do not forget to clear things like knives, etc. from your EDC and put it in your checked luggage. If you want to, if you bring your basics EDC with you, you can still check the stuff you can't bring, like the knives or anything else. Thus far, and I've made several videos on this, flashlights for small first aid kits, stuff like that. The TSA doesn't even look twice at this stuff. Every now and then they'll ask you to turn on the light and make sure it's a light. Also, travel for the airports, make sure you arrive early because the TSA machines will break down every now and then. Plan contingencies in case your flight is canceled. The recent storms we had, as well as the shutdowns of some of the airport control towers, absolutely screwed a lot of people. People could not get where they were going. If you're traveling, make sure you have an option to maybe get a rental car and drive home. Bring basic toiletries on in case, and a change of clothes if you can fit it in your carry-on, even if it's just a change of underwear or a new t-shirt, toothbrush, toothpaste, and maybe some baby wipes to wipe down. It'll make a difference for your hygiene. It'll keep you refreshed and keep you a little more focused, and make sure you have good footwear. Good quote from George Orwell: "Journalism is printing what someone else does not want printed. Everything else is public relations. And a lot of us wound up in YouTube, TikTok, or Instagram jail for trying to be mini journalists because we said what people did not want to hear, even though it needed to be said. So I thought you guys would enjoy a good Orwellian quote. One of my favorite authors, and if you don't or have not read it, highly recommend 1984. It's a little bit horrifying considering the technology we have today, but you definitely would want to take a peek at it and see. So in any case, folks, I think that kind of wraps us up. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, thousands of children are trafficked every year. There is help available at 888-373-7888. That is the National Human Trafficking Hotline. Also, you can call your local sheriff's department either via 911 or the dispatch number if you have it. Pay attention to the signs of human trafficking. And a lot of us, we go about our day, we're kind of focused on our job, our kids, our family, and we don't look up sometimes. We watch for crime, but we don't look for other people in distress. Look for the signs of possible trafficking. Young men and women who are afraid to do anything without somebody watching them. Especially young females who show signs of physical abuse, bruises, black eyes, burn marks, sadly. This is an ongoing thing in Texas in particular, between El Paso, Dallas, and Houston. It is a major thoroughfare for this, and those kids go to other parts of the world. There is a market for American and Canadian children, young teenagers, again, especially females, to be taken and used for filmmaking, if you catch my meaning, or to be sold overseas. There's a premium for a healthy young female in some of these markets, so keep an eye on your kids, educate your teenagers. They may not want to hear it, but it's a reality. And the police, even if you call the cops, you all know, and the cops actually roll right after you call them, it takes a minute to get there. Shameless pitch, if you want to support the channel, I do have a Amazon shop on the main page of my YouTube channel. You can also get discounts at Readywise. You can get discounts at Wallaby Goods, ETA Living, which is a multi-purpose water filter, and as well as holster discounts from 17.9 to 1 holsters. I do have a bunch of other stuff that I've used and tried on my Amazon shop. Go check it out. It's broken down by category: kitchen stuff, kids' toys, general prepping, tactical stuff. So dig around, see if I really liked it. I probably made a video out of it, so you can go look at my video. You may start seeing my videos on YouTube soon. I'm sorry, on Amazon soon. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the situation report for this week. I want to thank you all for joining me once again. As always, pay attention, be safe, be careful, plan out your trips and your week as best as you can. Remember, any money you save, any preps you have at the house is something less to worry about if something happens. And remember, an SHTF does not have to be the apocalypse. It can be a car accident, a layoff, a hospitalization. Can really hurt a family. So think of those things, the things that really happen to people every day. Till next time, Godspeed, God bless. I will see you next week on the next Situation Report. Take care.